Let me take you back to 1986, 4 years before the first NSX hit the streets of America. Honda had just spun up their all-new luxury brand aimed squarely at the American market, to go to war with BMW, Mercedes, Lincoln, and Cadillac in the upcoming premium car battle. Acura introduced their first automotive legend, the legend, and as good as it was, it never quite took control. This is the story of how Honda and a team of misfit engineers fought their way to the top, changing the automotive landscape forever, and how they absolutely shook the world by proving Japan could do much, much more than build cheap, efficient commuters. You have to remember, in the mid to late 80s, Japanese automakers had sort of an image problem here in the US. They sold plenty of cars that were well made, efficient, and reliable, but they were also cheap. Driving a car with a Honda badge wasn't a bad thing, it was the smart move for people with smart money. But nobody saw you as a winner. It wasn't cool or sexy or even interesting, and in a time when whether or not you had a pager clipped to your excessively padded sport coat determined which social circle you belonged in, being caught driving around a Japanese Econobox, or even something more upscale like the Legend, well, it just wasn't good for your image. Honda knew it was only a matter of time before other Japanese competitors stepped into the rink with their luxury-lined offerings. And they knew that to make a brand like Acura a true success, and elevate the Honda brand as a whole into the automotive big leagues, they had to do more than just build an excellent car. They'd have to rework their whole image. Because when you think of the cars that people aspire to own, the Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, maybe the Corvette, you pretty quickly realize they all sort of follow the same basic formula. It's gotta be a low, wide, two-door supermodel that not only goes fast, but looks fast too. Basically the complete opposite of everything Honda or any other Japanese car company for that matter was building at the time. The very idea of a car built strictly as a flex flew in the face of what made Japanese cars successful in the first place. Something like a Ferrari is pure excess. Nobody needs one per se, but they sell them anyway because they look good, and they make you feel even better. This gave the boys at Honda an idea. Mazda, Toyota, and Nissan could come to America and fight BMW just like everyone else. And all of those companies were bringing the same sort of firepower Acura had. But none of them had anything to drum up any real excitement. None of those guys had a supercar. The thought of a Japanese automaker stepping into the elite arena of Porsches and Ferraris seemed like pure fantasy. But if they could pull it off. Coincidentally, a few engineers had stuffed an engine in the back of a Honda City and drove it around the employee parking lot, noting how outrageously fun it was to drive. And it just so happened that in 1984, Honda had commissioned Pininfarina to build a concept that embodied what a future sports car could look like. It was an insane, futuristic design that had no doors, the whole canopy lifted off to gain access to the cabin, and could be used as a sort of active aero air brake at speed. And it wasn't just a design study. It was a working driving prototype that would ultimately serve as an early testbed for what would become the NSX. See, Honda's no stranger to the high-performance world, so Ichiro Honda was building race cars before Honda was even a company. They'd entered Formula 1 way back in 1964, literally not knowing what they were doing. They designed the whole car from a few photos of existing racers, and a story for another time. Not to mention they were unstoppable in Formula 2 all through the early 80s. But building an open-wheeled race car and a road-going supercar are two completely different disciplines. And the small team of engineers and designers tasked with bringing Honda's moonshot machine to life had never even attempted anything like it. The new car had to fit all the brand ideals: reliability, effortless design, and hell, even good fuel economy. And it wasn't going to be an exercise in brute force like the Ferrari 348 or the Porsche 911 Turbo. It was to be a display in Japanese design, forged of a philosophy characterized by simplicity, minimalism, and an emphasis on form coexisting with function. Technical data points had to land as close to the current Formula 1 car as possible. It was to be developed with math and science instead of just heart and soul. And it had to be different. A sports car that could be fun, simple, and even practical. One that felt at home on the racetrack and was completely comfortable making the school run or picking up groceries on the way home. It had to go toe-to-toe with the best from Germany or Italy, yet be practical and reliable enough to use every single day. After thousands of hours designing, developing, and years of testing, the car was ready to enter production. That is, until Ayrton Senna, the world-famous F1 driver, got his hands on it. Senna just so happened to be in Japan testing a new Honda-powered McLaren F1 car, when Honda turned up at the track with a prototype NSX. Serendipity at its finest, because after Senna ripped the car around the track for a while, he came back and simply said, "It feels a bit fragile." The engineers were stunned. They'd spent an entire month at the track fine-tuning suspension, tire compounds and pressures, engine tuning, and the car was good. But it needed a little extra to be great. So after more time spent at the drawing board and even some time running models through a Cray supercomputer to dial it all in, the car returned, 50% stiffer and 100% ready. In 1989, the same year Lexus entered the American market with the LS, aka the billion-dollar gamble, Honda rolled the new sports car experimental, or NSX, onto the world stage. Underneath its all-aluminum skin lived a 3-liter VTEC-equipped V6, complete with a variable geometry intake manifold and titanium connecting rods. It was the first VTEC-equipped production car they'd ever built, and it made 270 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, which was a damn sight more than the Accord engine they used in the test builds. Power was delivered through either a 5-speed manual that had feel that's still applauded to this day, or an automatic. And speaking of feel, there's the steering. Manual cars had manual steering, while the autos got the world's first production electronic power assist. And regardless of which version you chose, you were promised one of the nicest driving, finest handling cars the world had ever seen. Thanks in large part to its state-of-the-art aluminum double wishbone suspension system and obsessively tuned chassis, springs, and dampers. It had advanced for the time traction control and ABS, and it was designed to be big fun and hugely livable. And almost immediately, it was met with massive skepticism.
A Japanese automaker attempting a mid-engine sports car?
Why did they pack a V6 into the sports car? A true supercar needs a V8.
A Japanese sports car? That's simply preposterous. They don't have the pedigree of Aston Martin, Lotus, or Jaguar.
A beautiful car is a fast car. You call what you build a car.
But once the automotive journalists got behind the wheel, something started happening.
It really is a very, very easy car to drive.
The Japanese have finally reached the pinnacle of the automobile market.
Acura NSX remains an intoxicating sports car ride.
Rave reviews started flying in. The world's first all-aluminum car with an interior designed with inspiration from the cockpit of an F-16 was a huge success. It may not have had the power of its competitors, but it did have something arguably more important: balance. Fling it into a corner and it's a touch of understeer followed by smooth, progressive oversteer. You can feel the blood, sweat, and tears of Senna and the engineers ooze out of it.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
Journalists at the time noted it felt more nimble and composed than the heavier and more powerful 911 Turbo and Ferrari 348. That it was an absolute joy to drive at the limit, and that you really could live with one every single day. And stacked against cars like the Porsche and the Ferrari, which were both faster than the NSX in a straight line, they had 0 to 60 times of around 4.5 seconds compared to the NSX's 5.5. It wasn't only more functional and fun to drive, it was significantly less expensive. With a base price of around $60,000 compared to the 911's $99 and the 348's $109, the NSX's more accessible price tag made it an option for enthusiasts who wanted a high-performance sports car but didn't want to break the bank.
Then there's the reliability factor. The 911 Turbo and 348 were both known for being more finicky and costly to maintain. Not only did they need expensive, hard-to-get parts, but they had to be installed by an expensive, hard-to-get mechanic, like me.
So while its competitors were faster and more exotic, the NSX offered a unique combination of handling, practicality, and affordability that appealed to a wider range of enthusiasts. And as much as the NSX did its job and made big waves, it's the fallout from its success that really mattered. Of course, it set a new standard for how a supercar should be, particularly in regards to reliability. And naturally, technologies from the NSX trickled down into other cars in the lineup, like the inertial reactive suspension system born from F1, developed in the NSX and found in the Integra Type R, or the gearbox and electronic power steering systems that found their way into the S2000. But what the NSX really did, what it really stood for, was a changing of the guard. It paved the way for other Japanese performance cars like the modern Nissan GTR and the Lexus LFA. and it cemented Japan and their US luxury spin-offs as insurmountable powerhouses. For Honda, it changed their image, but for Japan, it changed their global prestige. The late 80s and early 90s were defined by cultural landmarks like the fall of the Berlin Wall, the rise of grunge music, and the birth of the World Wide Web. In the automotive world, sleek design, advanced technology, and a need for speed were driving forces. The NSX would come to embody the spirit of the time, carving out its place in history. It's an enduring symbol of Japanese engineering prowess and a testament to Honda's ability to defy expectations. It's a car that captivates, one that makes you feel the spirit of the time and the passion of the people who brought this incredible machine to life. And the truth is, every great supercar that came after it, in one way or another, can be traced back to when Honda put the performance car game on notice. Finally, driving a Japanese car stood for something greater. And that's why the NSX will forever be an ideal car.
And just wait till we tell you about the second one. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe to Ideal for more stories like these coming along very soon. Go check out the story of Lexus right over here, or go watch the story of Yamaha right over here. I'm Trav, this is Ideal, and I'll see you all very soon.